Hi there. Please like the video. Guys, let's talk about lavenders. There are many types of lavenders, but they came from the old world, ancient Greece and Rome. The lavender got to the south of France, my country as well, and my family's from the south of France. Came around 5 years before Christ. Its infusion started to be used as medication 1 century after Christ. And nowadays, the more experienced French use its oil on their heads at night before going to bed to keep mosquitoes away. Yep, that's one of the benefits. These plants help you keep mosquitoes away. And you will need a well-drained pot. It doesn't need to be very deep. Of course, you compare yours, the one you bought, with the new pot. If it's wider, it's best because it's going to grow sideways, all right? It doesn't need to be, the pot doesn't need to be very deep because otherwise the soil at the bottom won't dry out fast enough and then the roots will rot it. It needs time to dry out. And plants in general needs their soil dry in around 2 days. So you will water once the soil is dry, but just got dry. Don't maintain it dry for that long. And that's how you'll keep it healthy. If the weather where you live can become a bit moisty, like near the beach here in Brazil, it's not used to this type of weather, so you can spray water on its leaves when it's not too hot, so early in the morning or at the end of the day. Usually at the end of the day we'll keep it humid for longer because you will have the whole night for it to benefit from this water. So for you to have your own soil, guys, I've got my own. I don't like to make my soil, I like to buy it. When it's not drained enough, I like adding, for example, desert roses soil because it has bigger pieces. For example, you need to check what you've got there. So the potting mix is 70% compost and 30% horticultural sand grit. Choose a pot at least 12 inches across. When you plant, you can plant them in your garden, okay? Just be careful with the choice, the lavender choice. Have at least 5 fingers around, okay? Spread out like this to plant another one beside it. And what else? Oh, when you're choosing your lavender, remember, the English lavender, it will flower because of the type of climate it can grow in, which is freezing. It tolerates freezing temperature. Because of that, in a place like that, it will flower during spring, end of spring, and summer, mostly summer, okay? So June, July, if you're in the northern hemisphere. And while the Spanish and French ones, they flower more often. Again, it depends on the type of climate you live in. It doesn't like frost. And then this type, which gives you flowers more often, will need to be put indoors during winter if you live somewhere where it snows, for example, okay? It will need ventilation, like all plants, but it's a outdoor plants mostly. So yes, good ventilation. It needs direct sunlight. So just check how warm it gets where you live. But here in São Paulo City, Brazil, it's not the place in Brazil where it gets warmer during summer. It gets warm, but not too stuffy like in other parts of Brazil. So it can stay out in the sun all day long. But guys, please observe the differences throughout the year because the sunlight hits differently, and how intense the sunlight is also changes. So just observe and read a lot about your climate. Check before. I always check ahead of time the sunlight. I don't always get it right or complete, but throughout the year it's very important. And what else? You will need little fertilizers, because it doesn't need a lot of fertilizing during watering and so on, but its leaves, for example, dry leaves like this can become a fertilizer, and I'm going to mix in its soil. I will use this one, which is for maintenance. It lasts, in this case, as I'm going to water it more often, 3 months. And the fertilizer, which is inside this yellow ball, is released little by little. It's balanced. You see 14 there, 14, 14, 14. It's balanced. I don't need to keep worrying about fertilizing it. And if I water it less often, then it can last for a bit longer. But the little balls, they when all of the fertilizer inside is gone, it pops. Okay, it dries out and then it pops. And once a month I will use this for flowering, because yes, I will fertilize the plant a bit, but I don't need to do that very often. So in the beginning of the month, the weekend, I put this, and then for 3 months I don't have to worry about maintenance ones. This one is for flowering. The environment, again, as I said, will influence in how often it will give you flowers. Here I can mostly have it throughout the year, because it does get cold during winter, but it doesn't freeze, it doesn't snow. It will depend on how much sunlight it gets. And you need to check which one, what species will grow better in your region. This one looks like little teeth, the leaf, different from the ones from France. It doesn't have this, it's just a plain leaf. The color can vary as well, the tone of purple. This one is lighter. And that's it, guys. I guess I said everything. I hope I didn't forget anything. If you've got any doubts, please write comments and ask me questions. I can put, as this one is not deep, I don't need to, okay? Can you see it? Sorry. It's around 6 of my fingers deep and 10 fingers wide. But this is according to the size of the plant you're going to plant. This one, to make it fit, I'll have to remove a little of the soil, but you don't need to. You may keep it as a whole like this. I'm planting a new one because I had bought 2 from the same shop as this one, but the previous one I bought it in a shop and it had red soil. It wasn't well drained as it has to be. Look at its roots. It has thin roots. It's watered because I watered it today, and then I'll only water it tomorrow. You don't need to remove the soil as I'm doing. It's because of space, okay? I know it won't fit in that pot, so I'm removing through the center to prevent from getting the roots hurt. Let's see how it goes. No, I still need to remove more. Always check the size. I should have used a bigger one, but the place where it's going needs this type of pot because it will be hung outside. I live in an apartment, don't forget. So it will be hung in front of orchids. So I need a plant that doesn't attract any bugs which might kill my orchids. So the orchids are being protected, so the sun is being filtered by plants which don't attract anything that might kill my orchids, and the plants which love the sunlight. Okay, I believe it's gonna be fine now. I hope so, because I'm still going to use a little more. You don't need to, okay, because it will recover faster if you don't touch the roots, and this one doesn't need to have the soil changed. You may plant it in your garden. It will grow well as well. Just check which one grows better in pots. This one is the one which worked well here in Brazil, and it works in the south. It works well. It grows well in the south and in the southeast, where you have the 4 seasons. In the north and in the northeast of Brazil, it's not the case. You usually have warm weather all year long with very little differences in seasons, and they don't like it. So now I got this for me to use, but guess what? I don't mind my hands getting dirty. I don't need a lot of soil here, but the leaves are there. Well-drained soil. I will put that fertilizer now, like 30 little balls, and then I cover it with soil. Try not to put soil until very high up in this case, because otherwise you're going to have water with soil coming out of your pot every time you water it until it stabilizes. And in some cases, like my case, when I have plants underneath which don't need the soil falling on them, will benefit from it if I only, for example, the orchids, if I only leave the environment a bit more humid, the way orchids like, because the soil will, the water will evaporate, and then the area gets more humidity. So I'm gonna hang it after, guys. I don't squeeze the soil that much, but I try to fill in very well. And if there are any unwelcome plants, remove them. But from the roots, if you can. This is not enough. It will grow again. If you leave the roots, they grow again. It has little buds. It's normal for the leaves to dry out underneath if it doesn't get any sunlight. You know, these leaves at the bottom. Because the ones at the top end up by having all of the sunlight. The soil is wet. It doesn't need to be wet when you do this. It's because I had just watered everything. And I confess that there was another one where this one is. Always wash very well your pots before reusing them for other plants, because like this you prevent the plant from dying or getting sick in general. So I'll water it once the soil dries out tomorrow, maybe after tomorrow, but as it's going outside, I usually water them every day unless it gets very humid and colder outside. Then I cannot water it every day because it will take longer to dry out. Then again, it's important that it dries out in like 2 days. My hands, my nails will be full of soil right now, but you'll forgive me, right? That's a good thing. That's a good thing and not a bad thing. Bye-bye. I hope to see you soon in a video, or record it in English, or watch my videos in which I show the apartment and the results in general. And I usually record it in Portuguese because I've got more people who watch my videos in Portuguese. Bye. Take care.